I make a prediction by the year 250. I have a bunch of predictions here.
Okay, let's hear it.
Neuroscience and our understanding of the human mind will become so advanced that mental illness will be cured, leaving psychologists and psychiatrists without jobs. In a shift that echoes the rapid conversion from horses to automobiles in the early 20th century, self-driving electric vehicles will fully replace all cars and trucks on the road. The human space program will fully transition to a space industry supported not by tax dollars, but by tourism and anything else people dream of doing in space. We develop a perfect antiviral serum and cure cancer. Medicines will tailor to your own DNA, leaving no adverse side effects. We will learn how to regrow lost limbs and failing organs, bringing us up to the level of other regenerating animals on Earth, like salamanders, starfish, and lobsters.
And we're still not gonna have a new Outpost Rush map. Subscribe if you like the content. Oh, New World. Where do we even begin with this video? I want to talk a little bit about the game today. Where it's at, where it's headed. But to understand that, I guess we have to do a quick little recap of what has happened in New World since the launch until now. I'm sure you all know the story, so I won't go into too much detail, but for the fun of it, let's do a quick little recap because New World's history is nothing if not funny. At launch, the game shipped in a very poor state, completely unfinished, no endgame content loops, Outpost Rush wasn't even working. A hidden gear score we called Watermark back in the day, which you had to grind up. My god, I remember my disappointment as I reached level 60 and learned I had to now repeat farm the same bosses over and over to arbitrarily increase my Watermark until I maxed it out and items the boss dropped actually started being valid. But the watermark was far from the biggest issue this game faced. New World was suffering from a very confused identity of having been designed from the core as a PvP-centric game and then Frankensteined into a PvP-PvE hybrid compromised medium in the late beta. Dungeons were a horrible thing to try and get into, grinding for the dungeon's keys was annoying, and the chests inside of the dungeons were bugged, so you would only get 500 gear score items, but at least we had the fun of playing wars and competing for the territory control, right? Well, not really. Wars were riddled by bugs and exploits and horribly unplayable lag, resulting in wars being pretty much 100% RNG and an overall terrible experience for everyone involved. The toxicity in the war communities quickly grew to a staggering heights. Shell companies, paid mercenaries, territories being thrown to bypass the mechanic intended to stop one faction from being dominant so that all the good players could gather in one faction and retake everything with no resistance. It was a lot. But that wasn't all. The bots ran rampant, people were stuck in queues.
What is this?
It just takes a minute. It took me a minute too, man.
I mean,
I had to wait like 10 minutes before I actually got in the queue. I played D2. Oh, damn! Holy shit!
And game-breaking bug after game-breaking bug kept being introduced into the game for every patch to the point where patch day became a meme. We knew with a guarantee that every patch would introduce new bugs and thus the famous meme was born. New World doesn't have any bugs, it has features, because the new bugs were so drastically changing the game that it turned into new content. Which weapon will break this week? Which immortality bug can be abused next week? And of course, the dupes. Dupes. Trade post getting disabled, player-to-player trading getting disabled, the legendary Voidbent armor that you worked your ass off camping one single Orichalcum node 24/7 for 2 months competing with 20 other players just so you could get that armor crafted. Yeah, some kid duped like 50 of that armor and by wearing it, now everybody will assume that you're just a big old dirty duper as well. But I swear to God, no game has had funnier memes than New World, and the memes are endless and still coming. I just want to run around in a short skirt and a nice top with my gigantic greatsword, or something like this. Something like this would be cool, actually. Best I can do is this. I want to customize my character like in the first picture, but we have this. Oh my god. Dude, I'm dead. This looks fucking awesome, and this is what they fucking put in the game, bro. Holy shit. Somebody got paid to make this. Oh my god. Okay, so even though there is a lot of funny things that has happened in New World since the launch, I want to bring it over to a more serious note now. Because frankly to say, the state of the game currently is not very good. And I am not very optimistic about the future of New World either. The hype of the Brimstone launch has died down, and since the beginning of December, that is 43 days ago at the time of recording this video, New World has lost a staggering 50% of the population. The reason for this is because there still isn't any fun or worthwhile endgame content in the game. Expeditions are extremely repetitive and boring to complete. They don't feel particularly rewarding. Sure, you get umbels and you get gold, but the loot that drops from the bosses are not exciting because they will never be better than the items you can buy on the trade post, and the only items that can be good are the RNG roll items from the trash mobs, not the actual named items themselves. And therefore it doesn't really matter which expedition you run because they all provide you with the same reward, or at least the potential for the same reward that you're looking for. And the PvP content is extremely stale. Outpost Rush hasn't received a single update since the launch, and Arena still only has the one map with one team composition, which is 3v3. Why don't we have 1v1, 5v5, 2v2, etc.? I don't understand. Surely they could allow us these options and then option to queue for any as a filler, like just queue into any of the first available, right? We also don't have any rank mode PvP, no MMR system, no team balancing mechanics for Outpost Rush. In addition, the weapon balance in the game is horrible right now. Outpost Rush is mostly just muskets and bows, resulting in the matches being extremely boring to play. Arenas are still fun, but if you get unlucky with your teammates and the enemy team has a healer, it's an automatic loss with no way of winning because life staff is still so strong. You need a specific build designed to be able to kill a healer. Not every DPS build can kill a healer, which I personally think is very stupid. And to top it all off, the 2023 roadmap doesn't have any new PvP content on it. The only thing they're talking about is implementing cross-server OPR, which is fine, but nobody's going to stick around for 8 months just for some cross-server Outpost Rush. What we need is new content. Meanwhile, they keep throwing out these expeditions left and right, thinking that this 5-man dungeon content can carry the endgame loops for the player base. But like I already mentioned earlier, the expeditions don't matter. If you do Lazarus or Tempest, it makes no difference because they all drop the same stuff, gold and umbrals. That's what you're there for. New expeditions are a waste of developer resources at this point. Why can't we have some new arena maps and a new PvP game mode, or at least a few new OPR maps? They tried to gaslight us by saying it will split up the player base, but it took me around 2 seconds to figure out the obvious solution to that. Just put it in a random selector when the match begins, or do it like the Guild Wars 2 style. Let everyone who gets the queue invite vote for the map and the majority wins. Or they can do it like Call of Duty and just select a random map when the match begins. Or they can just change the map on a weekly rotation like the expeditions. So splitting the player base is not a valid excuse for why the game has been out for over a year and we haven't received a single piece of new PvP content other than the one arena map, which, let's be honest, it probably took them 2 to 3 weeks to create that at best. With the Brimstone Sands update, they created an entire new gigantic zone which has barely any content in it. There are a few elite POIs which can drop some entry level gear, but nothing which is actually best in slot. You have a bunch of chests where you can run in a sheep flock for a chance to get some good drops and earn some gold, and that's all. They also wasted dev resources on creating these faction headquarters which have no purpose whatsoever. I thought these would be quest hubs for daily PvP quests that weren't related to influence pushing, but just general PvP quests so that they would incentivize some open world PvP. And I also thought that there would be a new vendor there at this headquarter location selling some 600 gear score plus PvP gear and potentially some exciting cosmetics that you could purchase with the Assault Salt. But there is nothing there. These headquarters are just fluff. They could have spent that time creating a couple of new arena maps instead of this useless fluff. They keep forcing the PvE content out, not realizing that the way New World is designed in its core and the way it was marketed, the player base that was attracted are primarily PvP focused, or at least PvX. But they have chosen to just completely abandon the PvP community and just focus 100% on the casual PvE content. Yes, we are getting a raid sometime during this summer, but it won't be a raid dungeon like in Final Fantasy or World of Warcraft. It will just be like an arena, like the Siren Arena. You go in there, big worm spawns, you kill it, you go out again. Probably gonna be a 10-15 minute fight that you can repeat as many times as you want. Granted, you have the arena tuning orb, although there probably is some kind of time-gated mechanic to stop people from farming it non-stop. And then what kind of loot is in there? What will it drop? Bisque gear? I doubt it, and why should I farm a difficult raid boss when I can just go to the marketplace and buy the Bisque gear? Surely there won't be any gear in the raid that I can't buy from the marketplace. This is why the PvE content is so flawed by design in New World, because everything is accessible from the marketplace and from crafting. But the PvP content is awesome. The PvP action combat is so much fun when it works and when it feels balanced. It's more fun than any other game on the market right now for PvP, at least that's what I think, and I think that's what the majority of the other people still sticking around in New World also feel. So that brings me to my prediction of the future of New World. Sadly, I'm not so sure if New World is even going to make it through 2023. There are just way too many other good games releasing during this year, and a handful of very good looking MMORPGs at that. AGS are dragging their feet with implementing new content, and instead they are focusing all of their time and resources into working on systems that we expected to see the game already have at launch. We are over a year into launch and they are still in alpha development. The roadmap has major content features such as raid groups, loadouts, transmog, cross-server play. I'm sorry, but I have never played an MMORPG before that did not ship with the ability to form a raid group. Gear loadouts is also something that should have been in the game at launch. It's an obvious necessity by how this game is designed, requiring wards for different expeditions, etc. Transmog is also a common feature most MMORPGs have these days, and a cross-server play is not an exciting new feature for me, I'm sorry. Maybe it is for those that are stuck on a dead server, but I've been staying on the high pop servers all the time and I couldn't care less about cross-server OPR. What my fear is that AGS will get blindsided by all of these other games releasing. You have games like Throne and Liberty, which has been in development for 11 years. I'm sure they will ship with an actual in-game content and feature-rich systems. AGS will end up with too little, too late, and by the time summer comes, I'm afraid the player base will be less than 5k. I don't think New World will get a third chance at a resurrection. If only AGS focused on providing some quality PvP content, introduce some more open world events for both PvP and PvE with some exciting rewards. Currently there is no reason at all to go out into the open world other than resource gathering or chest runs. Give some quality of life improvements to PvP like team balancing or ranked mode for arenas at the very least. They just aren't focusing on what is most important, and I think this ship is sinking with no hope in sight. Anyways, that is pretty much what I have to say for this video. Let me hear what your thoughts are about the current state of New World and its future. I still like this game a lot and the combat is fun, but I have to admit that right now New World is just a waiting room for me while I wait for Throne and Liberty to release. If there still hasn't been any promising news or updates by then, I will probably jump ship and never come back. So that's what I have for today. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you did like the video, please consider dropping a like and subscribe. And as always, have a nice day. A peace.